I think there's an interesting dynamic that, you know, your mother and your father, you say, got divorced, and obviously getting behind that, and how that triggered you in school. And did anything else suffer in school? Did you have your grades do well, or did they fall off, or did you go through any of those phases?
Yeah, yeah. So I was fortunate enough to I qualified for the gifted program at a young age. So again, I was bused to different schools, and then as I got older, and I was also doing the commercials, I started to get bused to these schools for talented kids. So I lived in my neighborhood, but I went to all these different schools, some for higher education, some for talent and skills, and that made it very difficult in my own neighborhood, you know. As far as the family goes, I guess grades and all that, school was kind of easy for me. It wasn't as hard as it is for most people, so I breezed through things unless I was just being lazy.
How did that work in your community? Obviously, you said how it was difficult, but I'm trying to picture going, like being in your position, being 13, 14, and like in the summer, I'm playing with you. In school year, I'm gone. I'm here. I'm talking different. I'm higher educated.
Sure.
All this, so I can imagine you almost getting picked on
Absolutely.
for not only being in the limelight, but having a higher education. And
Absolutely.
so, how was that transition, and what was the toughest thing you had to deal with at that young age?
Yeah. Well, because when you're a kid, you want to be accepted. You want friendships. You want people to, you know, like you for you. Obviously, I don't know if you've ever heard a deep South Miami accent, but I never had that, you know. Again, I'm going to these higher education schools. I'm speaking more articulately, and that turned off my my immediate community. People said I talk like a white boy. I go to those white people schools, you know. It was a huge like racial divide. Girls that I would have wanted to date would not even see me because you know, I talked, I carried myself differently, and I also had to leave school at times and go shoot. I had to leave school halfway through and go do, you know, an audition. So lifestyle was different.
Yeah, that's just a crazy. I've never talked to somebody that had that like a pendulum swing at such a young age. Because so let me say this: how much did you learn balance at a young age with dealing with this, or was there ever, both two-side question? How did you learn balance, and was there ever a time you tried to fake who you are as a person to fit in with the people around you?
Absolutely. I'll go with question number 2 first. You can't help but want to sort of put on a facade or do things that you felt like was more acceptable. So getting into trouble, causing trouble. I'm very talkative. I'm very loud. So adding that to how I operated in school, I got kicked out of private school in my freshman year. I got kicked out of public school my sophomore year, just because of how I operated. And that was to all fit in, and that's all for show, and that's all to be a tougher, cooler kid. So yeah, that was a difficult thing to balance into my lifestyle. Also, as far as balance goes, it gets overwhelming. So when I went to college, I had a theater scholarship because I'd already had proclamations from the mayor, the governor, had been on TV for several years, like things were successful. And I looked at it because of my environment as a negative. So I didn't want to act anymore. I didn't want to do it, you know. Nobody in my family had ever been to college. I have a scholarship to go to school. And so I took it, but I immediately chose a curriculum that was anti what they wanted me to take. So I rebelled against my scholarship. I walked on the basketball team, wanted to play ball. I wanted to do something different, you know, and I stopped acting for, I want to say 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
Thank you for watching A Wise Way. Subscribe to stay updated, share to pass the knowledge, or view our other videos on the left.